it's Reagan and today I'm here to talk about my top 5 favorite books of the year so far. We are at the midpoint of the year, which is mildly terrifying, but yeah, we have like less than 6 months left until it's 2017. Shit. That being said, I took a gander at my shelves, pulled off some of my favorites. A lot of these books I feel like you're gonna recognize because I feel like I've talked about a few of them ad nauseum, but I wanted to make a true and genuine list, so I had to talk about them again. Not that I minded, because I love them so much. But let's just go ahead and get started. I will say these books are in no particular order. They're just the order that I stacked them in. First, I'm going to talk about Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This is the first book to her young adult fantasy duology. This was a book that was extremely hyped last year, but I didn't buy the hype. I was like, nah, and then I waited, and then I waited, and then I waited, and then I finally read it, and holy crap, it totally was. This book is absolutely amazing. This follows a multitude of characters that kind of have unsavory backgrounds, and basically together they're trying to pull off an impossible heist. This story has such a rich world, has such great characters, has humor, has interest, has intrigue. It's so good. It's like the perfect package of a YA fantasy. It kind of like re-sparked my love for YA fantasy because in some ways things have been getting a little conventional for me, but then I read this and some other books that I've recently read as well, and it is just like reassured me that no man, this genre still has so much to offer. But this book is so great. Next we have another book that kind of re-sparked my love for something, and that is A Court of Mist and Fury by Miss Sarah J. Maas. This is the second book to her Court of Thorns and Roses, or ACOTAR series. This is her kind of new adult fantasy series, and it was a series that I honestly didn't even have that much interest in. I wasn't really anticipating this book at all, but then I read it and I loved this book so much. This book is like drugs, okay? That's the best way to describe it. The reason why this book is on my list, aside from the great characters, the plot, the story unfolding in such complex and interesting ways, but it also was a book for me that was so incredibly addicting, and it got me back into like fandomness so deeply that I just haven't had in so long. Like, I read this book and I was just like obsessed with all the characters. I can't wait till the third and final, and it's just kind of a very fun place to be again. And it also has made me re-excited for the 5th book to the Throne of Glass series by Miss Sarah J. Maas, which I wasn't sure after Queen of Shadows, but now I have hope for a couple of things, so I'm waiting it out. Yes, this book is amazing. This novel follows fairies, and it's just really awesome. It houses a strong female character that goes through an evolution, emotional, physical, kind of journey and growth into herself, which I think is something that's really great and a really good story for people to read. And I just love it so much. Are you so itchy, or like what's up? Next up we have A Awesman Sphere by Patrick Rothfuss. This is the second book to the King Killer Chronicles series by Patrick Rothfuss. I read this at the very beginning of the year. I loved it. I don't know if I loved the first one, The Name of the Wind, or this one more. This book is a behemoth. It's over 1,000 pages long, but it didn't matter because I flew through it. This is a story I'm thinking is probably my favorite fantasy series, adult. Like, it might be topping Mistborn at this point. It just has a staying power with me that I feel like no other story has. Writing itself has such a wonderful quality to it. I feel sucked in, I feel at home. The characters, just everything about this, it kind of has a slow burn to it, but one that you appreciate. I don't know. I absolutely live for this series, and I cannot wait for the third one to come out. This, obviously, I've mentioned a lot of times, follows a man who's basically recounting his life story. He's telling his story to a chronicler, and the first book follows him from boyhood up until about mid to late teenage years, and this book follows him from teenage years to early 20s, and basically you're reading the story, recounting his past, and you're like, but how did he get to his present? That's like the main question mark. And I still have no idea, and I need the third book right now. I really, really want it, but this series is absolutely fantastic. It is also long, but the writing isn't intimidating. It's not like a Game of Thrones. It's very, it will just draw you in and keep you there, and it's just amazing, okay? I'm realizing all these books are fantasy books, but I'm also not so sorry about that. Next I have The Black Prism by Brett Weeks. I bet a lot of you aren't surprised to see this, as I haven't shut up about it since I've started reading this series. This is another adult fantasy series, but where it differs from something like The Name of the Wind or The Awesman Sphere is that I would say it's definitely more plot-centered and like action driven. It's so fast paced and has so many twists and turns. It keeps you on the edge of your seat, but it doesn't necessarily have like beautiful lyrical writing. Where The Name of the Wind is very a slow burn, this is definitely a fast burn, but that doesn't detract from it at all. It's on this list for a reason. This series just fulfills like my deep love for plot driven, can't stop reading fantasy that hooks you from book to book. Like, you're at an arc and then something happens at the end and you're just like, what? How could it top it? Gotta read the next one. It makes me feel like Codex Alera again, because I loved Codex Alera because it had a very similar like structure as this. Not at all similar in story, but this is just so good. And again, this adult fantasy following multiple perspectives with a magic system that's centered around the spectrum of light. The more light colors you can control, the more powerful you are. However, the magic wielder, if they use too much light, will actually die earlier. So it's kind of like a poison to the magic wielder, which is a very interesting component to this plot. It's so good. Seriously. And the last book on my top 5 list I'm going to talk about is Flamecaster by Cinna Williams-Chima. I just loved this book. This is the new book to the new series that's set in the Seven Realms world. You do have to read the first 4 books to that series, though that's not a bad thing because those books are absolutely amazing. The first one being The Demon King. This guy here. This book just reminded me of why I love Cinna Williams-Chima so much and her writing. She is so good at making such interesting YA fantasy worlds and fill them with such diverse characters that seemingly are in such different paths but ultimately have to rely on each other, and it's just so good. And they have plot twists and they have character growth, and there's just so many parallels to our world in terms of social problems and things like that. They're just solid reads. They're solid, and I absolutely love the start of this series. I can see that it's going to be another great series like The Demon King, and I cannot wait. I can't wait. I'm on board. I'm on the train. I'm sad I had to wait almost 9 months for this new one to come out, but it's just so good. Alrighty guys, those are the top 5 books I have read so far this year. Let me know down below some of your favorite books you've read. I would love to know because I'm always looking for new recommendations. Kind of sorry, but kind of not sorry they were all fantasy, but literally this year has been like a renaissance moment for me in fantasy. Like, I have just been reading all of it again, and it just makes me really happy, and I'm not going to apologize for happiness, but it's true. Like, I've just been able to read all of the fantasy, and it's awesome. Long, short, it's just been great. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon with another one soon. Goodbye!